Yes, hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome along to the penultimate weekend review here on Turfcast. Because, of course, next week is the final day of the season, and with Sheffield United out of the picture now, we are just looking at the trials and tribulations of Burnley and Leeds United as both teams battle it out for the Championship. I will be bringing this back next season, I think. I've had some decent feedback regarding the show. Let me know in the comments what you think. Obviously, next season I'll have more teams to talk about because we'll start it at the start of the season. So we'll have Burnley, Leeds at first. Whether or not they pull away and get towards safety, I doubt it. We'll see what investment they bring in the summer. Then the teams that we talk about may change. And obviously anybody else that comes up with us, probably Blades, and maybe the likes of Wolves and Everton, depending on how some of the other teams get on. West Ham as well. We could probably even bring Spurs and Man United into it, because the point of the show is to always talk about sort of like the teams in and around Burnley. We are, of course, a Burnley fan channel, so it will always be Burnley centric. I might look at doing sort of like a different channel where I can talk about wider football in the near future, maybe set something up over in the summer. But if I do, I will let you guys know. But yes, at this stage of the season now, we're just looking at Burnley and Leeds United because, of course, Burnley and Leeds United are the ones battling out for that Championship title, as I've said. And the two teams, after an impressive weekend for both teams, are still locked on 97 points. I thought Burnley were in good form, but look at that Leeds United form. It's win, 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 win. Before that, to be fair, it was the Leeds United blip. Blip as well. That's probably even a bit strong for what happened. It's probably just more of a slight slip, but there were a few draws. There was obviously a defeat down at Portsmouth. Then you dropped Melier, and then you've probably been even better, Leeds United, since that blip. It's probably made you even better. You were absolutely sensational against Bristol City, even better against Stoke. But Burnley, on the other hand, we were fantastic at Queen's Park Rangers as well. And that's where we are going to start. We're going to talk about Burnley first this week, because we talked about Leeds first last week. And of course, Burnley was the first game. So an emphatic victory down in London. I went to this and I can categorically say I feel like that was Burnley's best performance of the season so far. There's one game left, so it probably will be the best performance of the season. We'll get into the games that Burnley and Leeds have both got later in the show. But yeah, Burnley were 3-0 up after 28 minutes. And even when Cullen scored that goal early on, like, you're in a position now as a Burnley fan where you know you're not going to concede 2 goals in a game, in a league match. So as soon as Cullen scored that goal, I'm like, well, at least we're not losing. Then when Fleming scored not long after that, and I'm like, yeah, we've won this match. And that kind of, call it what it is, it's arrogance in a way. That kind of arrogance is just unheard of from a Burnley fan, like genuinely it is. But when we went 2-0 up, I was like, we've won this match. I didn't think we'd go on and win 5-0, but that's exactly what we did. Fleming got another goal. And at this point here, Chair and Frey came on the pitch, and I thought QPR were the better side for the first 5 minutes. And that was just, I feel like that was just because Burnley were getting used to the subs. But they came on, they had a go at us a little bit, and there was a couple of moments where they nearly got in behind. But then after that, we got straight back on top very easily. Sarmiento getting the 4th goal, and then Sarmiento getting the 5th goal. Quite a lot to be positive about in that as a Burnley fan. Luca Koleosho coming back into the team and playing very, very well. Jeremy Sarmiento coming off the bench and playing very, very well. Probably won't be at Burnley next season, but you never know. But it was good to see them two playing very, very well. Just a quick look at the stats. Obviously, you have a look at the scoreline. You see it there, QPR 0, Burnley 5. You know it's going to be a dominant performance. And obviously the stats back that up. 2.36 XG, which I think is quite low, if I'm going to be honest with you. I think it should have been higher than that. But yeah, it is what it is. I know XG can be up for interpretation. So yeah, 2.36 to their 0.45, 62% possession, 16 shots to their 9, 10 on target to their 2, 5 big chances. Again, I feel like that should have been more, because Hannibal had one cleared off the line. I think Koleosho went through early on as well. Forgive me if it wasn't Luca, but I think it was. And just look at that passing stats. The away side as well, attempting 600 passes. All right, I've rounded up one, forgive me. 599 passes. And the home side only trying 361. A couple of yellow cards of Burnley, which was my only gripe. In fact, another super criticism that I will have for this game is just that we didn't score more. We were by far and away the better side, and it should have been more than 5 in the end. But I was going to say beggars can't be choosers, but then in that scenario, that would make Burnley beggars, and obviously that's not the case at all. But then obviously Leeds didn't play until, well, yesterday. I'm recording this on Tuesday, so Leeds didn't play until Monday. And obviously that win put Burnley top of the table on 97 points. And Burnley fans, me included, were looking at the Leeds game at home against Bristol, seeing who they've got on the last day of the season and thinking this is the chance where Leeds will hopefully slip up. But how foolish of us, because Leeds obviously have only slipped up once at home this season, and we know who that was against, don't we? It was, of course, against Burnley. But yeah, Leeds were excellent last night. They really, really were. And this isn't against Stoke. Like, I caveated the win against Stoke with, yeah, Leeds played very, very well. Of course he did. But it was Stoke. This is a Bristol City side who, off the top of my head, are fifth. I'm pretty certain they are fifth. So it's a good win, a very good win. They're a good side. I will say I watched it last night, and I will say I did think that Bristol City looked poor, but I don't think, when I'm now looking at it through sort of like neutral eyes, if you will, it's just Leeds making these teams look poor. And again, they were superb, especially in that second half. I think Bristol City tired, to be fair. But obviously Tanaka with a goal at the back post in the first half. And by the way, I will touch on the Player of the Year awards after we've done all of this. And then obviously Big Willa getting the second, and then Ramazani with a couple just to seal the win. I remember just being sat there because I ended up going up to bed, if I'm being honest, if you're having worked a long shift and then working the night before until 2 a.m. So when that third one went in, I went to bed, and I'm just sat there watching it come through on flash score. And then it just turned from 3 to 4. I'm like, bloody hell, they're absolutely annihilating them. But when I look at Leeds and I look at that performance, and then I look at Bristol City, who are a team trying to come up with Burnley and Leeds, I just think if you're that far away from Leeds, and 100%, obviously, the Premier League will bring a lot of investment and things like that. They'll get a lot of money, will Bristol City. But I'm thinking, if you're that far away from Leeds, do you want to go up? If you're getting beat 4-0 by a good championship side, a very good championship side, you're going to get absolutely murdered by your Liverpools, your Cities, even your West Hams and your Brightons. So at Bristol City, if they do come up, they've got a lot of work to do. But I've said it before, I'll say it again. There's the top two in the championship who are both by far and away better than anybody else in this league, easily. It's not even close anymore. Miles better than anybody else in this league. Then you've got Sheffield United, who, to be fair to them, have been very, very good up until the last few weeks of the season when it mattered. But I'm not sure whether the pressure got to them or they just weren't good enough to get it over the line. Then you've got Sunderland, who are better than everybody else, but not quite as good as a top three. And then you've got everybody else. Bristol City fall in the everybody else category. And I will be stunned if one of Bristol City, Coventry, Middlesbrough, or even them lot down the M65 get promoted, because they're miles away from the likes of Sheffield United, for example. But let's just have a look at the stats. Leeds actually getting a higher XG than what Burnley did in their game at 3.39. Look at Bristol City's. Look at 0.07 XG. Total dominance from Farke's men. And by the way, surely that puts any doubts to... I mean, I'm going to say it puts any doubts to bed about Farke's future. Whether there are any doubts or not from some Leeds fans, I'm not sure. Obviously, I know Connor spoke about it at length and things like that on One Leeds. There was a big article in the Daily Mail, which was then picked up by John Percy. And John Percy is the GOAT of journalists. So if John Percy is saying that there's a chance it's going to happen, then there probably was a chance that it was going to happen. However, if the 49ers or whoever it was making the decisions at Leeds had any doubts over Farke, then just look at how good they are. I know the doubts come from his time in the Premier League, but it looks like he's now got better as a manager than what he was at Norwich. And was he really backed at Norwich? Again, I've not done a deep dive into it, so I don't know. That might be something I do on the channel, or maybe my own channel if I create one in the summer. But dominance from Leeds, absolute dominance. 3.39 XG, 74% possession, 23 shots to Bristol City's 3, 12 on target to their 1. And I remember seeing a stat on Twitter. It's not something I noticed at the time of watching the match, But look at that. Not one single shot in the first half from Bristol City. I believe their first shot came in the 60th minute. This is a team who are going for the play. They're fifth. They are fifth. They're not Stoke City. They're not QPR. And, respect to them two teams. They've had tough seasons. I'm sure they'll bounce back. But it's not like they've played a team down at the bottom. They've played a very good Bristol City side who are still within a shout of being promoted. And they've absolutely annihilated him. 9 big chances. So even though the scoreline isn't as emphatic as Burnley's 5-0 at QPR, the dominance is a lot more dominant when you look at the stats. And look at the passes as well. 833. 833. Is that one of the most this season? That's the most I've seen since I've been doing the weekend review, I think. I remember Burnley a couple of years ago, I think got over 1,000 in a home game under Vincent Kompany. But look at Bristol City. 281 attempted passes. Only the 1 yellow card in the game. But yeah, absolute dominance from start to finish with Leeds United. And I'm hoping for Farke's sake that's put any doubts to bed. He deserves a chance. He deserves to be given a chance at the Premier League with how he's got Leeds playing this season. There was that little blip around, a month and a half or whatever it was ago. But since then, they've gone from strength to strength. I think Burnley have as well, to be fair. I don't think it's just Leeds. I think in the second half of the season, Burnley have just got better and better and better and better to the point where they obviously overtook Blades and then confirmed promotion. But Leeds had that slip. They dropped Melier. They brought in obviously Darlow, and since then I think they've been better and better and better, and just gone from strength to strength. But yeah, both of the top 2 teams now are just absolutely blowing teams away, and I genuinely believe now that both teams finish on 100 points, and then that of course will mean that Leeds win the title. But has it ever happened before? 2 teams finishing on 100 points? I don't think it has in the Championship. I'd be pretty surprised if it has anyway. But I'm sure someone will tell me I'm wrong in the comments. But yeah, both teams going for the title were absolutely sensational this weekend, and it's going to be a shame whoever misses out on the title. Obviously, as a Burnley fan, I hope it's Leeds, but it's going to be a shame for. I think Leeds beat Plymouth on the last day of the season. It's Plymouth, and I know Sheffield United lost there, but I think that says more about where Sheffield United were around that time than anything else. But yeah, Leeds will beat an already relegated Plymouth. I know it's not been confirmed that they're relegated, but they need a 13-goal swing. It's not going to happen. They're down. I feel like Leeds will go to home park and just do what they've done to Stoke and Bristol City and turn them over. I think Burnley beat Millwall at home as well, but I do think we have the toughest game of the 2. Millwall are obviously a team that's going for the playoffs. A win at the weekend for them could see them into the top 6, and then obviously they're in the playoffs, so they're going to throw everything at us at Turf Moor on. I kept saying Sunday on the full-time show. The last day of the season's on Saturday, so apologies for those of you that were watching the full-time show. But yeah, they're going to throw absolutely everything at Burnley on Saturday, and I think we'll be able to hold strong. I think it's good in a way that they'll come at us, they'll open up, and then we'll be able to just counter them and just get in behind. We have the quality to get in behind teams that do that. So I think we do beat them, but I think it's going to be tough. But I think Leeds beat Plymouth, and I don't think that will be tough. I think they beat them and blow them away. Right, let's take a look at what the managers had to say then. We'll start with Burnley Scott Parker. Will we? There we go. There he is. And this is what he had to say after Burnley's emphatic win at Loftus Road down in London. As usual, we won't play it all. We'll just play the first minute or so just to get a vibe on what he's saying. But there he is. There's the manager of the season. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Sun shining, party atmosphere among the fans, and a performance to match.
Incredible performance all round today. I thought we were exceptional today. Probably arguably up there with the best performance of the year, really.
I said that, Scott.
A big challenge coming here today. One, playing against a good side, but more obviously no denying what the week's entailed for us on Monday night. Getting to the point of a job which was one which we wanted to execute. We did that. And then ask the players today, just can we flip back into a mindset of that ruthless team that we are and ruthless individuals that we come here and put in a performance and go for that next thing, which is obviously the league. And I thought to a man, to be fair, every single one of them, we were top today, to be honest with you. And I don't think that was solely down to QPR. I just thought we brought our A game today, and we was very, very comfortable.
So going back to the end of the first half, obviously we're 3-up cruising. and then lose possession. You see 9 players absolutely busting a gut to get back. I mean, that just says it all about this team.
I'm just going to pause it there, actually, because I do want to quickly mention that if you haven't seen it already, we did share it on Turfcast. It was shared by Visa. It was shared by JJ Watt. It went viral. The clip of the Burnley defenders. We also talked about it on the full-time show. Leeds fans will be able to relate to this from the time under Bielsa. I think you guys did it against Wigan, and shout out to the Wigan fan for highlighting this to me. But it just goes to show sort of like the togetherness in the team, doesn't it? And how everybody's working for each other. And some people look at it and say, oh, that's why they've not conceded many goals, because they're boring or they sit back. And it isn't because of that. It's because of what you saw in that clip. There was 1 second. In fact, I still might have, there we go. I still have it here from the full-time show. So I'll bring it on screen here. Look at that. That's 44 minutes, 45 seconds. We're already 3-0 up, as the reporter said there in the interview. That's 1 second later. Look at them all just coming back. He's got nowhere to go, as that poor lad. I think it's Dembele. He's got nowhere to go. It's Connor Roberts there. It's a 1v1 situation. It's dangerous. You're thinking to yourself, obviously, like I said, I was there. I was in the top tier. And it looked mad, even in person. But just look at that on camera. Connor Roberts, 1v1, trying to push him out, hoping to himself, hey, up, this defender could skin me. This defender could knock it round if he's got some pace. Absolutely no chance. It's like a pack of lions hunting their prey, all working together, all pushing I'm going to say prey. I'll call him Dembele. All pushing the player, Dembele, sort of out wide, making sure they all get back. And of course, Burnley did defend that very, very well, and it was superb. But that just goes to show that how good this team is at working together and how much of a sort of like a brilliant unit it is. And again, like I said, Leeds fans can relate to that because we saw Leeds doing that sort of thing under Bielsa, and it's great to see. And I think genuinely, it stands it in good stead for next season. But we'll have lots of debates on relegation and stuff like that next season, and whether anybody can stay up, because the national media are already telling us that literally nobody can. But we'll get into that later in the summer. Let's get back to what Parker had to say.
Yeah, I think if there's ever a clip, if there's anything that can ever get out there, just look at that. And I referenced it at half time to the lads. We try and work a corner. Brownie gets caught.
Yeah, we're a poor corner, to be fair.
5 seconds. There is 6 or 7 of us around the ball at the edge of our box. It just epitomises the picture alone. The video clip or the picture of it alone just says everything you need to know about this group. And it's a mentality about us. You often hear the lads referencing it. Someone makes a mistake, your mate's there to help them out. And that clip probably summed it up.
Yeah, genuinely great to see. Agree with that. It shows the mentality of this team. It shows that they will run through brick walls. For the badge, they'll run through brick walls. For the shirt. And whether they're doing it for the badge or the shirt, that's a different debate. It looks to us as fans like they could just be doing it for each other. But that's enough for us. And I said it in... I think my fan reaction is that if that is how we play next season, then I'll be more than happy with that. If you do that next season and look like you look like you care, not that I ever thought they didn't care, but there were some sort of like times the last time in the Premier League campaign where it just looked like they were going through the motions, looked like they weren't really bothered about any sort of like results. They will go, oh, here we go, we'll lose again, we'll get beat here, and that sort of thing. So yeah, it was great to see, and I think it stands us in really good stead for next season that the players are playing like that. Right, next, let's take a look at how the fans reacted to it, or should I say the Burnley fans. And of course, normally what I do at this stage is I bring in clips from other YouTubers, but because we're talking about Burnley now, and I'm a Burnley, I hate the word YouTuber, so I'm going to say creator, I'm going to bring myself in. Is that narcissistic? I think it is, isn't it? But anyway, I've done it now. But this was my reaction after Burnley won 5-0 at QPR. Right, okay, fan reaction time then. Queen's Park Rangers 0, Burnley 5. He's a handsome chap, isn't he? He's a very handsome chap. 5 goals for boring Burnley. And I will just start this video with a brilliant little stat that kind of puts the boring Burnley nonsense, and I've always called it a lazy narrative, to shame. There are now only 2 sides in this division that have scored more goals than us. We've scored more goals than Sheffield United, Sunderland, Bristol City, Coventry, Millwall, obviously Blackburn because they're awful, Middlesbrough, West Brom, Swansea, Sheff Wednesday, Watford, QPR, Portsmouth, Oxford, Stoke, Derby, Preston, Luton, Hull, Plymouth and Cardiff. Only Leeds United, who have been a very, 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 very good team going forwards this season, and Norwich City, who've also been good going forwards this season, but have been pretty awful at the back, have scored more goals than this boring Burnley side that everybody loves to call us. But we were absolutely superb today, weren't we? We were really, really, really good. But before I get into it, I'll leave it there because at that point I start begging for likes and subscribers and stuff. By the way, if you haven't already, make sure you like this video. If you've already liked it, make sure you subscribe. If you've done both, fantastic. But yeah, obviously that's just me there, sort of like referencing the boring Burnley tag and things like that. But the main point of that was me saying how good we were and how superb we were. Fingers crossed we can end up scoring a few this weekend, get above Norwich. Obviously, we're not going to score more than Leeds at this stage of the season. I think Leeds, I'll just quickly get the league table up. Obviously, you won't be able to see it, but I think Leeds have scored 90 odd now. Leeds have been absolutely ruthless in front of goal. Yeah, 93 goals. That's incredible, to be fair. Burnley on 66. So for us to get more than Norwich, we need to score twice this weekend and hope that Norwich don't score. But yeah, somebody did sort of like comment on it, to be fair, and I had a few people sort of like saying you can't really deny some of the games earlier in the season were a tad tedious. The only game that I look at this season and be like, yeah, that was boring from Burnley is the Leeds United at home game. We just said, right, we're playing against the best team in the league at scoring goals. We're just going to shut up shop. We're just going to say, we're just going to nullify this game. We're just going to contain Leeds. And credit to Burnley for being able to contain a team that scored 93 goals this season because they didn't score one goal against us. Somewhat fortunate at Elland Road, to be fair. Trafford had a very good game, but he's part of the defence. So people say, oh, you only didn't score against us. Oh, sorry, we only didn't score against you because of how good your goalkeeper is. Well, yeah, that's why we brought him in. And that's why he should have been the player of the year. But again, I will touch on that later. But yeah, we've been very good this season. We've been very good. We haven't been boring at all. And it is a tag that I saw Brownhill reference it a couple of times. I've seen, obviously, myself referencing it now. And it's good to see sort of like that it's kind of been blown out of the water. The proof's in the pudding that we're not boring. There's been a few games this season earlier in the year, drawing 0-0 at home to Derby, drawing 0-0 at home to Preston, 0-0 away at Oxford, all these other 0-0s. Stoke City at home, we drew 0-0 there, at home, in that game. So there has been a few games where we were frustrated, but I always felt like it was the opposition that were being boring in that one because it was them that were coming to Turf Moor. It were them that were sitting in 2 banks of 4. It were them that had no intention of playing football whatsoever. I agree the onus is on Burnley to then break them teams down, but we just weren't good enough in front of goal back then to be able to do that. But that's not us being boring. That's us just not being good enough in front of goal. But obviously since then, I think there's only been 1-0 or maybe 2 0-0s over the last sort of like few months away at Derby. And I think there was another one as well. I can't remember off the top of my head. But again, away at Derby, we're just a typical John Eustace performance. Right, 2 banks of 4, pepper them with long balls, pepper them with long throws. And then if we nick a goal, we nick a goal and hopefully we win it 1-0. But again, it wasn't Burnley's fault. The only game where Burnley have been boring this season was that Leeds United at home game. But yeah, I don't think that's worthy of a boring tag, but I understand why Leeds fans sometimes say it because that's obviously their main sort of like memory of a Burnley game this season. But I think we've blown that boring tag out of the water over the last few weeks. Let's have a look at Daniel Farke's reaction then after Leeds United demolished Bristol City at Elland Road on Monday night. And what I will say, and I'm never normally one to talk about atmospheres and things like that because I just think it's a lot of it's just a stick to beat certain clubs with, like your Man Cities and things like that. But recently, Burnley tried to do a thing where they put some flags on some. Well, they didn't even put them on the seats. It was a case of the first sort of like 1,000 people that came in got a free flag. Hence, there's a flag behind me now over my shoulder because I intentionally got there early as soon as I found out to get one for my little boy. But a lot of Burnley fans criticised it and they were saying it's been done in a certain way, which I agreed with at the time. But I felt like it was decent in the end. But we've done it before in the past where we've put a flag on every single seat and it looked 50 times better. And full credit to the Leeds United hierarchy last night for putting a scarf on every single seat. It looked magnificent. And I like it when Leeds fans do the scarf above the head thing. And I do wish we'd be a little bit better with things like that. The flags were decent, but it could have been so much better. There was a thing with the Burnley flags as well. Like if you was taking your own flag in and weren't being given one like that one, then you had to submit it to the club. It was just a pain in the backside, really. And a lot of fans just said, oh, I'm not going to be bothered doing that. One fan even sent them a picture of one of the flags the club gave the fans the last time out when we did what Leeds did, but with flags on every single seat, and the club rejected it. So utter nonsense, really. But yeah, the main point to me and what I'm saying here is, you know, fair play to Leeds United and the hierarchy for putting the scarves on every single seat. It looked class. But anyway, let's get into Daniel Farke and his reaction after yesterday's victory against Bristol City. Now, for some reason, there's no interview with Daniel Farke on the Leeds United YouTube channel as yet. I don't know if they're going to put it up today or not, but it's not there. So I'm just going to take a minute or two from the main press conference. So let's see what Daniel Farke had to say.
Yes, I'm very proud manager of my boys and the whole stuff, because obviously the week was not the easiest week in terms of concentration and focus, because yeah, the first 3 or 4 days we were just concentrated on celebrating.
I thought he was referencing the stuff in the Daily Mail then, so we're going to jump in. But I do feel like the Leeds celebrations went on a bit longer than the Burnley celebrations. The Burnley lads went to the Royal Dash the night of the promotion after Sheffield United, and then they were back in on Tuesday, whereas we're still seeing clips like 2 or 3 days later of Leeds celebrating. So I was hoping, as a Burnley fan, that there was a hangover, but yeah, fair play, there wasn't.
And just returned back to professional football training. Yeah, to be honest, just on Friday. And then normally it's not enough if you face such a good and also highly motivated side like Bristol, who is sitting also in the top 6 and need each and every point, and it's highly motivated and is on a really good run. I was a bit worried before the game, but I shouldn't be worried, because my lads showed again that they can focus and showed their winning mentality even under these circumstances to deliver such a performance where we didn't allow one chance for the opponent during the whole game. We scored 4 fantastic goals. Should have scored way more, if I'm really honest. I think it was again one of the best performances during the whole season under this circumstances. So yeah, I'm pretty proud manager, and we were so motivated also to finish the season inside, because we know that we have created already the best home record in the history of Leeds United, but we wanted also to finish this final home game with a top performance and top result, and I'm pretty proud that we were able to deliver again.
I'll just leave it there because the questions aren't great audio more than anything, but interesting to hear him say about finishing the season in style. I think Leeds are doing just that, and we're going to be in a scenario now where I'm fully expecting Leeds United to beat Plymouth and hit 100 points. And I think I saw a stat, actually. Apologies, Leeds fans, if it's wrong. It was on Twitter, so it's not always the fountain of all knowledge. But it was from a YEP reporter, so I think it's pretty legit. Is that Leeds, this is the highest points total Leeds United have ever got in their history. So if Daniel Farke gets 100 points on Saturday, which I think he will, that will be the first ever Leeds manager to hit 100 points. That's incredible. To say that you've had the likes of Bielsa before, and obviously he's seen as a god, and I understand why. He's a very, very good manager. But I think Daniel Farke deserves a lot more respect than what he's getting from Leeds fans, if I'm honest with you, and from the wider media as well. I think both Farke and Parker have shown that they have got better than their last managerial jobs. I think with Parker, it was a case of being in the Premier League, getting battered 9-0 off Liverpool. That was his last game at Bournemouth. Then he was sacked. Obviously, then he went to Club Brugge. Don't really know too much about his time there, but I know that it didn't last long and it didn't work. Not particularly sure why. But what I think that 9-0 drubbing to the hands of Liverpool has changed Parker's mindset and is a lot more cautious now. He was never the most attacking, free-flowing manager, but I feel like he's a lot more cautious now. Hence the brilliant record that we've got in the division, the defensive record. And Farke, they just look brilliant at the minute, the Leeds, and they have done for the majority of the season. There's been bumps in the road here and there, but I just feel like he's clearly got better than what he was at his time at Norwich. Last season, some people say that it was not good enough that Leeds didn't go up, and I somewhat do agree with that. But at the same time, when you've got some brilliant teams in the league, like they did last season, I think it was Ipswich that finished second, and obviously Leicester that won it, you can kind of understand, and there's sort of like mitigating circumstances as to why Leeds didn't. They should have won the playoffs, so I stand by that. But yeah, I feel like he deserves a lot of credit for this season alone. Even if you don't look into last season, I think Farke and Parker have both shown that they are better managers now than what they were the last time that they were in the previous jobs, if I'm honest with you. So, yeah, it's interesting to hear him talk about ending the season in style. I know Burnley are doing the same thing, so I'm fully expecting both teams to finish on 100 points. Right, let's take a look at how the Leeds fans react to this. And I would imagine it was with unbridled joy. So I'm going to bring in Connor on the One Leeds fan channel and his father. Love that, Connor, mate. Absolutely love that, mate. Great to see you getting your dad involved. So I love that, mate. But anyway, let's have a look at see what Connor and his dad had to say after Leeds United demolished Bristol City. The title here, don't know if you guys can see it, says, "We are so happy." So, like I said, unbridled joy, I would presume.
Well, good evening, everybody. Leeds United absolutely laying down a marker, an absolute marker, 4-0. And let's be brutally honest, it should have been 10-0. Bristol City with 2 shots, I think, on goal, none on target. A dominant display by the Whites. Ramazani, my boy, getting 2 at the end. Fantastic finishes again from the man who we all know should be given a Premier League opportunity. It was great to see him operate off the right as well, with Solomon on the left, just giving a bit of variance there. But I tell you what, Dad, that was just from back to front a champion's performance. And you've got to say to Burnley, fair play to him as well. 5-0 at QPR at the weekend. Yeah. But this team should be 120 points with how good we are when we get to full swing. It's a brilliant side. What a team.
I mean, you're quite right, Con. I mean, when we look at Burnley, they've been. I mean, look at that. When you look at the table now, what are we plus 13 on the same points as us. But really, if you're a football fan, who would you rather watch?
Yeah, it's Leeds.
Let's be honest. I mean, that performance tonight. I mean, we really didn't have an opponent. They just didn't turn up. So it was relatively easy, but we're still turning on the style. And what a player. You get that lad, Ramazani, coming on. I mean, we know it's a One Ramazani fan channel. We know that.
Ramazani
but there's a reason for that. There's a reason. And maybe Daniel's just about woken up, just like he did with the Darlow situation. He's realised the brilliance of the man. And, we've got to keep a hold of him for next season. But, Connor, we've just got to glorify, haven't we, in this moment? It's just absolutely amazing to be a Leeds fan now.
We'll leave it there. Leeds did lay down a marker, to be fair to Connor. Obviously can't ignore the Burnley comment and who would you rather watch. I think when you look at Leeds last night and how they just blew a very good team away, it's hard to really argue with it. But again, this boring Burnley tag is just utter nonsense. I know Connor's dad didn't say that, but obviously that's sort of like the reference in the back of his mind, I would imagine. But Leeds yesterday was superb. But let's not forget that there's only 2 teams in this league that have scored more than us. And it's not like Leeds fans to get carried away, isn't it? Connor saying we should be on 120 points. You're not. You shouldn't. You're on exactly the amount of points that you should be. But if my auntie had balls, she'd be my uncle. You know what I mean? It is what it is. But Burnley fans could look at it and say, if we didn't draw all these games 0-0, we could easily be on 110 points. It's just swings and roundabouts. It is what it is. But I'm not arguing with Connor or anything really that he said or his dad. I just feel like they were superb last night. And obviously that's the emotional reaction, coming out towards the end of the match where Leeds were sensational. And I completely agree. They were sensational. They were fantastic. But we're both level on points. We've both been as good as each other. It's just Leeds have put the ball in the back of the net a lot more times. And Burnley have been better defensively. But in terms of the who would you rather watch thing, for me, I mean, again, more neutrals would probably agree with that. So that's why I'm struggling to sort of like argue with it. But for me, football's all about different styles and different sort of like interpretations of the game and different opinions and stuff. And that's why we love it. There's something beautiful about a team. I think next season, for example, Burnley will stink a few gaffes out, just like we did to Leeds this season. So I can't really sit here and argue with it when we probably will go to like, your Liverpools and your Cities and try and do to them what teams did to us at the Turf early in the year where they got the 0-0s and what we did to Leeds. Will we do it? Probably not, because these teams are just so good. But again, we'll get into that later in the season, whereas I think Leeds will probably be, losing games 4-3. There'll be some games in there that they win for that margin as well. So yeah, it's hard to argue with that, to be fair. But we're both as good as each other. We're both on the same points, and we're both going to finish on the same points. It's just Leeds will, unfortunately, from a Burnley perspective, just have scored a few more goals. What's the difference in I think he just referenced it there, didn't he? Did Connor's dad? Yeah, 13 goal difference. And that comes from scoring 27 more goals than us. But yeah, Leeds have been fantastic going forward, and I've referenced it loads of times, to be fair. They really, really are fantastic going forward. So can't really argue with it. But yeah, that's it for this week's fan reaction. This week's weekend review. I will very quickly touch on the sort of like the team of the year and things like that. I've still got it here. I did at the time when I originally made this and talked about it on the full-time show, as I was sort of like saying, Brownhill can be a little bit wounded that he's not in this. But then I saw the rules were that you can only have 3 from one particular team, and which Burnley player are you taking out of that to put Josh Brownhill in? As good as Josh Brownhill has been, he's been fantastic. Who are you taking out? Trafford? No. Steve? No. Egan Riley would be the easiest one to argue against, but same again. Like it's a record-breaking defense. So the defenders from the record-breaking defense deserve to be in it. Gus Harmer, I've got no issues with Gus Harmer being in the team of the season. I do have an issue with him winning the player of the season. Josh Brownhill's had a better season this season than Gus. Josh Brownhill's not even in the team in the season. For me, I mean, Burnley bias, obviously, but it should have been James Trafford. He's part of a record-breaking defence. He's just equalled the clean sheet record. This is going to be the best ever defence that the English game has ever seen. And a lot of it is down to James Trafford. A lot of it is down to Steve and CJ as well. But I refuse to listen to this narrative that it's funny, really, because Sheffield United fans are all saying Trafford isn't really that good. The only is he's only breaking these records because of the players in front of him, because obviously they're trying to back their boy Marco Cooper. Leeds fans, on the other hand, are saying Trafford's exceptional, but the Leeds defenders are better than the Burnley defenders. The only reason why Burnley have been really good defensively is because of Trafford. So it depends which narrative you're trying to spin. Let's just be honest. That Burnley defence is superb, and it's one of the best you'll ever see, if not the best you'll ever see. The stats will show, hopefully at the end of the season, depending on how many goals we concede against Millwall, shouldn't really be more than 1, because we haven't scored more than 1 all season. Famous last words. Watch this. We score 4, concede 4 now on the last day of the season against Millwall. I mean, it's unlikely. My only sort of like issue with this is it's the Norwich players, and I'm sorry. I know it's Sargent, keep Sargent in for me. I think he's probably one of, if not the best striker in the Championship. I think Isidore at Sunderland might have something to say about that. But it's between him and Sargent, or maybe Joel Peru as well. But he's had sort of like droughts as well. But Borja Sainz has scored 2 goals, I think it is November. He started the season brilliantly. He should not be in that team. No issues with Gus being in it. No issues with Harrison Burrows being in it, because of the 3 rule, the 3 players rule. I do like Junior Firpo. I think he's fantastic. I think he has probably had a better season than Burrows. But with the 3 players rule, which Leeds player you're taking out of that? And I mean, when I did my team, my combined 11 with Connor, Burnley and Leeds combined 11, I did have Firpo in there over Bogle. I just feel like he was at that point the better of the 2 fullbacks. I think Bogle has been fantastic. He was great at the turf. I know nobody really, but he was up and down that wing like no end at the turf. But yeah, I think Trafford should have won the player of the season. Burnley specs on, admittedly, but I know there's a lot of people that agree that aren't Burnley fans. And I was actually surprised that Farke won Manager of the Month. I'll be honest. I thought Farke were going to get it, but they've obviously looked at all the turmoil that Burnley went through in the summer with the ridiculous sales, the way that the board did it. I'll stand by it. I mean, I might look silly now because we've gone up, but I felt like the way that the board did it was wrong. Selling so many players in such a quick succession of like a week, like we just sold like think it was like 7 players in a week and then brought 5 in. It was just like mental. Then Scott had to get this team together, get them playing for each other. And I feel like that was why we started the season so slowly. And then we've now just grown and grown and grown into the season. But I thought I think it was Farke and Reggie Labrie at Sunderland that was up against Parker, and I felt like Parker would probably finish 3rd in that. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. I just felt like that's probably what the award would have been. You can probably argue that Reggie Labrie's turned Sunderland round in a better way than what Parker has from where they were last season, but I feel like Sunderland's form, since they couldn't get the top 2, has dropped off a cliff so much that it's ruined their chances, or should I say Reggie Labrie's chances of winning that award. I understand why they've done it. They've rested players to get ready for the playoffs. But I don't know. It just looks a bit dodgy now because, like I said earlier at the start of the show, you're looking at their form. They've lost the last 4 games in a row. One of them was against Oxford. One of them was against Blackburn. You know what I mean? Like some awful teams. Swansea as well. So I'm surprised they've got so bad, if I'm being honest, but I understand it. But look, we'll leave it there. Thank you to everybody for watching. Thank you to everybody for listening. If you like the show, let me know. I do plan on doing it next season, especially to the podcast listeners, because I have started putting this up as a podcast as well without any warning. So if you are listening to this on the podcast feed, please feel free to send me a message on Twitter, Facebook, wherever. WhatsApp if you've got my number, because I know a lot of you do text me and stuff. So yeah, I'll carry on doing it next season if the feedback is good. I've enjoyed doing it. It's good to see how Connor and his dad and Jimmy, when we were doing sort of like the Sheffield United side of it as well, we're reacting to things like this and getting the other managers on. I'll always try and make it around 45 minutes to an hour. I've just waffled on a lot recently in this one because there's only 2 teams to talk about. So next season, when there's we'll have to start the season with obviously. Like I said, Leeds, Blades, ourselves, probably somebody like Wolves, maybe Everton and West Ham, somebody like that, depending on who we all think will be in relegation trouble with us. But yeah, thanks everybody for watching. Thanks everybody for listening. And I will do a weekend review after Leeds United win the title next week. Fingers crossed that isn't the case from a Burnley perspective again, but they'll beat Plymouth. They'll blow them away. It'll be another 4-0 and Burnley will probably beat Millwall 2-1, something like that. But yeah, promotion party at the Turf on Saturday. Looking forward to it. That was the main job. That's all that matters. Get promoted to the Premier League, and we've done exactly that. We'll see you next time.